Hi, everybody. My name's Aida Reyes,
And I am Bob Hafner
and we are the teachers and owners of the Phoenix Center for Healing
in sunny, hot Homestead, Florida, south of Miami.
in the Redland area. So, if you're tuning in, we are going to be discussing the do's and don'ts of relationship. And we'd like to start with the don'ts and go as far as we can with that and see if we have time for the do's. And if we don't get to the do's, then we will get to it next week. But I do think it's important to discuss the don'ts in relationships. And why is that? Well, first of all, there are definite rules that we should have in our relationships, right?
For sure.
No? Maybe?
No rules. The marriage is going to suffer.
Yes, most definitely it is. So, ground rules in relationship. If you are in a relationship and you don't have ground rules in your relationship, then how do you keep yourself safe? Because when we're in a relationship, we are at the mercy of how that other person is going to treat us. But if we have ground rules that we both can stick to, then we're able to keep ourselves safe and the other person safe.
And that's healthy communication.
Right. Because if you don't feel safe, safety is the foundation of relationship. If you don't feel safe, then you cannot trust and then build on that. And if you cannot trust, then you can't open yourself up and love.
And then there's secrets.
And there's that.
And we don't want secrets in a marriage.
No, not at all. What we want to be is fully transparent with each other, to be able to discuss things that even though they carry a bit of charge to it or there's energy behind it, then for sure you want to be able to have ground rules. So let's go over like the ABCs of the don'ts. And then we'll explain to you why it's important to have these ground rules. And so to make the don'ts, those ground rules. And the first one we did use ABCs. The first one we don't want to use is aggression and assumptions. Now, why aggression? Well, obviously, if people are aggressive, you're not going to feel safe. Now, what does aggression look like in a relationship? Well, it could mean a lot of things. Obviously, the worst case of aggression is physical violence. But there's also emotional violence, which oftentimes starts with sarcasm and cynicism. And so,
Verbal aggression.
right. And why is sarcasm something that we don't want to do? It's because when someone says something sarcastic, like, well, yeah, of course you did that, let's say, then the other person is kind of left like, what do you mean by that? Like there's this feeling of being unsafe, unsure. There's a lot of unpredictability there. And so that is one of our ground rules is no sarcasm or cynicism.
Sarcasm is passive aggressive, and that's a defense mechanism for the person who's being sarcastic.
Right. And also people can say, like when you say something and then you said, well, I was just joking. Well, see, sarcasm truly comes from anger. And it's used in anger unless you are in a very playful and there's nothing behind that. And what would that be? Like playing with someone that you just met, going back and forth in that banter, trying to create some sort of trust in the relationship. That's not the same of what we're talking about here. We're talking about using sarcasm as a way of throwing something out there and see how it lands, like a grenade. I'm going to throw like a grenade in the middle of the room, see if it goes off. And so then the person receiving the grenade is like going, okay, wait, are you angry? Are you upset? We don't know. So in our relationship, that is one of the ground rules. No sarcasm, no cynicism. And if either of us use it, then the other person will say, hey, that's sarcasm. And the other person will quickly apologize, correct their language and say, well, this is how I really feel. Because sarcasm doesn't really tell the other person how you're really feeling, does it?
Nope.
In fact, you have no idea how that other person feels other than they're somewhat irritated by something that you said or did.
There's an energy connected with it. There's a trigger, a stimulus that is cooking and it's boiling, and the pot's going to boil over.
So you definitely don't want to use sarcasm or cynicism, and really sarcasm or cynicism in any relationship, not just an intimate relationship like, Bob and I that are married, any relationship. So with your children, and it's so easy to fall into, just being sarcastic with our kids, like, oh yeah, I'm sure you did that, or something like, and then that is very degrading to people's energy, and it's very degrading and disrespectful. So you don't want to use sarcasm, period, when it comes to just, expressing yourself when you're upset, because sarcasm really in a relationship comes from upsetness.
What will happen when the other partner is using sarcasm, and maybe one is more aggressive than the other partner, that one that is the least aggressive will one day blow up and can turn into domestic violence or words said that you will regret later hours from that incident. So it will affect both of you. You think that it doesn't, but it will.
Absolutely. So you don't want to do that. And you really want to look at your own languaging and clean up your own language and just be honest. Rather than saying, "Oh, I'm upset," or something sarcastic, just say, "You know what? Right now I'm upset. When you said this, I felt this, and that really upsets me." Just be honest. Okay? So that is the no aggression. The other word that we use, letter A, is assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Why? Let's say Bob says something, like what?
Well, I thought you could do it.
Okay, and so then I make now an assumption that Bob must think I'm stupid. And so then when I have that assumption, I have an emotional response to that. I get angry, irritated, frustrated, disheartened, like, oh my God, Bob thinks I'm stupid. And then I have an emotional reaction. And then I start to believe that that emotional reaction is true. And then I come up with another assumption. Meanwhile, Bob is talking. And I'm not listening because I'm creating my assumptions. I'm creating one after the other and having my own emotional reactions to what I'm thinking. So is it a wonder that when you've had a disagreement with your partner or partners you've had in the past, where one of you is talking up here and the other one's talking down here, and neither of you are actually really listening to each other? Because you're both plotting your attack. So you're not listening. You're going like, okay, well, if he says this, then I'm going to say this. Or you know what? When he said that, I bet you he means this. Again, another assumption. Then I have an emotional reaction. And then I say something to my partner, to Bob. And Bob's like a little bit out of left field and doesn't know where I'm coming from. So
where did that come from?
Right. So then we have to clear up assumptions. So oftentimes when something is said or done, like Bob says something that has like an emotional charge to it, I'll ask him, Bob, what is the assumption that you are making of me right now?
I was thinking of the dishes. How many times do I got to do the dishes? I've washed this knife 3 times today. Heidi, wash the dishes.
What's the assumption you're making?
The assumption is that Heidi's not participating in the chores. And I think she thinks it is my total job to wash the dishes.
That's the assumption. So she must think that it's my job only to wash the dishes. Because usually assumptions come with a lot of absolutes. Always this, never that. So we don't want to make assumptions, and you want to clear up those assumptions. You know what, Heidi, when you say that to me, this is the assumption I make, that you must think I'm stupid. So then we clear it up by Bob asking, Heidi, is it true that you think I'm stupid? And then I get to say, no, Bob, I don't think you're stupid. And that just cleans up so much time, because then you realize that that comes from something way deeper in you. because that's what you probably felt when you were a child. And it's probably that go-to judgment that you have of yourself, like, oh my God, I must be stupid, right? And so then, of course, if we think that of ourselves, then for sure we project that onto someone else and believe that they think that of us. Okay? So now we have no aggression, no assumptions, meaning no aggression, meaning no sarcasm, no cynicism. All right. Letter B comes with no belittling, putting down, okay, judgments, not using belittling comments or statements or judgments like, I think you're lazy, I think you're mean, I think you're what?
Stupid.
Stupid.
How long is it going to take you to get it? Belittling.
Right. Yeah,
Shaming. Belittling comes with shaming.
most definitely.
They're cousins.
Well, I think that they're one and the same. When you belittle someone, it's really you want to shame them into thinking that they are less than. So definitely you don't want to do that in a relationship.
When that starts happening, the fight is on. That's when it gets really heated.
Hey, gloves are off then, because once you throw a judgment out there, towards your partner, then your partner now takes off the gloves and says, all right, now I'm going to throw you my judgments of you. And that doesn't get anything.
It just puts you deeper into chaos.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, your judgments are based on your own history, your experiences, your perceptions, and it always is going to it's always going to be about you. Whatever judgment you have of someone else, that is really a judgment you have of yourself, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not. It doesn't matter. The fact that you can see that quality or that characteristic in someone and judge it harshly, that means that if you spot it, you got it. Okay?
It's a mirror of yourself.
Exactly. So now we're on letter C. No crude or foul language when you are beginning a disagreement. Why is that? Because, Bob and I banter all the time, and we may use foul language, to talk and whatever. But once we start to move into that disagreement phase, we do not use foul language, because that creates a much more unsafe situation now. When you start using very heavily charged foul language words, those are like weapons of mass destruction.
And actually, when we do use foul language, that's what we call aggression. And aggression can be tracked within our neurocircuitry. And so aggression leads to hate. Aggression leads to physical violence. Just by starting out by calling your partner a certain term, and you can see the escalation, and then you can realize that your physiology is also changing. You're breathing quicker, and you can't find the words, adequate words to use, and you're losing sight of what's happening, but you're getting more and more angry and getting to that point where the partner could and may explode with rage.
With more foul language.
And by then, you're already in a sympathetic shock cycle, and here comes 911.
You don't want to get to that. So definitely, the judgments and the belittling and the foul language. Because the foul language, and people do it so often, you don't realize the energetic hit that your relationship takes when you speak to your partner with crude language. Because when you really think about who it is that you're with, it's like as if you forgot who it is you fell in love with. You forgot what this person truly means to you, the sacredness of this person, the sanctity of this person. And so now you're using this nasty, sloppy, destructive word. Very annihilating words. And words carry energy. They carry force. Words can bring peace or they can bring war. And so when you're in that state, when you're disappointed or you're disgruntled or you're upset with your partner and you're angry, what's the best thing to do?
Time out.
That's right. Take a time out. And so what does that time out look like or sound like? So let's say that you're following the rules, you're keeping, yourself safe, you're not using foul language, you're not using sarcasm or cynicism, and you're not belittling and you're not using judgments, but somehow energetically you're starting to get angrier and angrier. One of you must take the stand and say, you know what, I think we need to stop. I feel that this is escalating and I think we need a timeout.
This is self-care.
Absolutely.
Here it's survival. And self-care is a necessity. It's not sweep it under the carpet. It has to be addressed.
Absolutely. And so when that happens, when one person calls the timeout, the other person will ask, how much time do you need? And honestly, we never really tell people to go more than an hour. I know people that take days to come to a resolution. Do not
3 days,
do that.
4
Do not
days.
do that. That is putting yourself in a massive timeout. You think that you're hurting your partner, and in reality, you're hurting yourself by like caging yourself in your anger.
You're eroding the sanctity of the marriage.
Exactly. So let's just say that you guys agree that when we're going to take a timeout, it's an hour. Now, in that hour, you guys separate. You don't talk to each other. You don't make snide comments to each other. You don't go like, and huff and puff around the house.
The body language.
You just take time out, meaning that you're not going to see each other. You're not going to look at each other. You're not going to talk to each other. Okay? And why is that? Because we need to calm ourselves down. When we're in that emotional state, guess who has taken over there? Our inner child has taken over. And our inner child may have access to all this beautiful vocabulary, but they don't have access to the files about Bob, for example. My inner child, my little girl, doesn't know really who Bob is. Bob didn't come into our lives till I was in my 40s. And she's only about 5. So for all she knows, Bob is an adversary, Bob is an enemy, and Bob needs to be stopped, or Bob needs to be, like we need to run away from Bob. That's what she knows. So that's why we want to take a time out, because now we're no longer here in the frontal lobe, able to plan and organize what we want to say, have that foresight.
We're in an immature state of mind.
Completely.
Which is your inner child.
Completely. And you're deeper in the brain now. And when you're activating that anger piece, you're already in a state of sympathetic shock. It's called fight. Not fight, like in the fight or flight, you're in fight. And so it can get really bad and ugly. So we definitely don't want to do that. So we take the time out. Now, once we come back, we always, always, always have already in mind that we are here now to gather and to resolve what went on. It's not about rehashing because you said and she said, and if that starts again, then guess what? We need another timeout. Because when we come together, there is that urge in me to come together and be together and love each other again. Because I don't like being angry and upset, and whatever, and just being upset about. I rather have peace. Am I going to get upset about sometimes? Absolutely I do. But I don't necessarily dwell on it, or I work it out very quickly. This is what's happening with me. When you said this, I felt this. And then I set boundaries with Bob. I said, I really don't like the way that you said that to me. Can you use these words instead of what you said? And I noticed a tone, and that hurts my feelings. And so then Bob will, say something about it and
apologize, make amends.
Right. Absolutely.
My behavior, go over my exact behavior. When I did this, I see that you felt angry, sad, and despair.
Right.
And you made a belief about me, or I made a belief about you, and that needs to be self-corrected too.
Well, the assumptions.
That's the assumption.
And so we clear up the assumptions. So we come back to resolve. And now we've decided that, okay, we've gotten to the point that we want to be together. We want to be lovey-dovey with each other. How do we clean it up? Now, how do we move from this point where we want to apologize? And so the way that we apologize to each other is by saying the following. I acknowledge that my behavior, because all the while we're in that resolution phase, we are listening to our partner and listening to the behaviors that we engaged in that they felt uncomfortable with or they felt hurt by. And then that is what, you want to acknowledge. I acknowledge that my behaviors of raising my voice, or let's say rolling my eyes, or cutting you off when you were speaking, brought up feelings in you of hurt, sadness, anger, despair, doom. And for that, I truly apologize. You don't deserve, I know you don't deserve that. Okay? And so then, and it was never my intention to do that or to hurt you in that way. So what are we doing there? We're acknowledging our own behavior, taking responsibility for our own behavior and emotions as well, and also validating the emotions of your partner. And why is that important? Because when we were little kids and we were upset, our parents never validated that for us. In fact, in most cases, when we were upset and they didn't know what to do with us, they were like, why are you feeling like that? You shouldn't feel that way. You have no reason to feel that way. Look at everything you have. So in us sharing how we feel, we get shamed or guilted, like we shouldn't feel that way, and yet those emotions are coming up. And it's no wonder that we grow to be adults and don't know what we're feeling, because they were never validated for us when we were children. So we most definitely, absolutely want to validate the experience of our partner in that scenario, and it is very healing and very corrective for us, so that now, because Bob hears me and Bob listened to what I was saying while I was sharing and I was sad or whatever it was, that makes me open up even more with Bob and trust him even more. And it brings us closer, because then I see that there's compassion in his conversation with me, right? Okay, so that is how we seek resolution. All right, so how did, I'm gonna just walk you through that again. So let's say that, you're not being aggressive by being sarcastic or cynical or using, language that is crude or foul language, or, I don't want to say dirty words, but whatever that means. You know what they are. Okay, we don't have to say them. And so we don't do the aggression. You haven't made assumptions, or you clear the assumptions and you say, my assumption of you is that you think that I must be stupid. And then I would get to ask him, Bob, is it true you think I'm stupid? And then Bob would say,
no, I do not think that you are stupid. I think you're a wise, intelligent lady.
Thank you. So once we clear those things up, then we want to get to that place of resolution. Something that I probably didn't say is that when we're in that heated discussion and someone starts to say, you know what, I think I'm escalating, this is escalating and I need a timeout. Please, please, please take advantage of setting that boundary and taking a timeout, because we definitely need that. And we have tons and tons and tons of evidence of people not utilizing those things that end up then, 911 gets called because of domestic violence. Okay? And so when you come back from your timeout, one person will say, well, how much time do you need? The other person says, well, I need about an hour. Okay, no more than an hour. Why? Because then you get to think and think and think and think. And during that time that you are in timeout, it's not about rehashing or rethinking those things.
Blaming or complaining.
What you want to be doing is doing something completely different. Completely different. Like watching something, peaceful, listening to quiet music, just literally just calming yourself down, breathing, maybe stretching a little bit, then coming back. Because then once we are no longer emotional, now we can think more clearly and we can see more clearly. And I can see, oh, it's Bob. Bob is not my mom and Bob is not my dad that did XYZ to me. But when we're in that heated discussion, you cannot see the difference because the brain has been triggered and a memory has come up that you don't have any idea what it is. But your brain gives you the emotional and the physiological response that it did when you were a little child. This is why Bob and I do hypnotherapy and we do regression work. And so now that we're back together and we're here to resolve, we say the following. Once we get to that place where we want to make amends and have resolution, it's to acknowledge our own behavior. I acknowledge that my behavior of, and then you be very specific, which means you were listening intently to your partner. And partner, you're listening to see, did he get it? And if he didn't get all the stuff, then sometimes we can add a word or so. Try not to do too much of that because then that'll trigger up more things, right? I acknowledge that my behavior of turning my head, of not listening to you, of pulling away from you, or saying words that were that you perceived as degrading, brought up feelings of sadness, hurt, anger, frustration, irritation, despair, whatever that is. And for that, I truly apologize. That was never my intention, and you do not deserve that. And so then, once you both take responsibility for your behaviors and your emotions, and you acknowledge what you did to contribute to that situation, by the way, it takes two to tango. Both parties apologize and make amends, not just one, okay? And then we're able to then have a hug, do some sort of physical connection and hug each other. Maybe that little child in you is going to go like, I don't want to hug him, you know? But you definitely want to do that. Do it in spite of what your little child is saying, because your little child is going to want to like hold the grudge. And so the adult in us has to say, no, we like to be loved, and let's just feel the hug and feel the love.
Healthy touch will trigger a healthy memory, and that reconnection will be more energetic in a positive way.
And even more so, a 20-second hug is going to release oxytocin in your brain, which is the love hormone, which is a soothing hormone, an anti-inflammatory, a natural antidepressant. So it will raise, your mood. It'll elevate your mood, and you'll feel better. So we hit our almost 30-minute mark. I guess we can do the ABCs of the do's. Maybe we can do it in 5 minutes. Hang in there, guys. So we gave you the don'ts. And if you just joined us, please go back and start it from the beginning, because we give you a list of the don'ts. And how important it is not to escalate arguments and take timeouts. Now, what are the do's of the relationships? For sure, A stands for appreciation and acknowledgement. Appreciating your partner. Thank you. Please. Thank you for bringing me my coffee. I love how you made this for me. Acknowledgement of what they are for you. Also, we acknowledge our own behavior. Those are the do's. Acknowledging that if I act a certain way or say something, there's going to be a consequence to that. So we definitely want to be appreciative. Don't take people for granted. God forbid someone walks out the door one day and they don't come back because something happens to them. So you don't want to have regrets about that. You want to be able to appreciate your partner and let them know how much they mean to you.
Thank you is a good word that we should all have in our vocabulary, and not to forget it when somebody does something for us. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right.
Goes a long way.
Yes, it does. So B, that is A, acknowledgement, acknowledgement and appreciation. And B stands for believe. Believe in what brought you together. Okay? How did you fall in love? And believe in the person that you fell in love with. That's the true person, right? That they're kind and caring. Believe. Hold them to that. See them as that. But guess what happens? We don't do that because once we get emotional, we have all these veils come up, and now we don't see our partner. Now we are experiencing a regress state, and we are now in an argument with our mother or our father.
A negative state of mind.
Correct. So definitely keep that to the forefront. Like, yes, you're going to have this emotional response, but let's keep the adult here to modulate and regulate and, be able to use the words, healthy words, to express those emotions rather than to let this little child take over and it becomes, we're at war, No, we have to live in that duality that, yes, I'm an adult, but I also have emotions and I also have thoughts and I also have spirituality. So healthy adult is the one that sees the situation and uses logic, reasoning, problem solves, and says, okay, let's see what's happening here. Okay, you feel hurt because he said this. All right. Remember that Bob is loving. He cares about you. He gives you massages. He worries that you're, wants to make sure that you're safe and healthy. Then I've got to talk to that part of me so that she hears that, right? Because she doesn't know Bob, remember? She really doesn't know Bob. She just sees Bob as this boogeyman. So believe in what brought you together, all right? And believe in the positive of your partner. C stands for courage, compassion, and confidence. So courage and confidence to say what needs to be said with compassion, which will always lead with, I feel emotions. I feel hurt. I feel sad. Not, I feel that you are a mean person. That is not a feeling. That is a judgment. And you will be surprised in all of my years of being a therapist, which has been 25 plus years now, how often I have to correct people and say, that is a judgment. That is a thought. That is not an emotion. That is not a feeling. And so we want to be able to practice those, because the more we know those words, the more easily we're able to express them, right? Okay. So,
and that should do it.
I think that's it. So you got the ABCs for the do's, which is to appreciate and acknowledge our behaviors and acknowledge your partner for the wonderful person that they are. B, to believe in the person that you fell in love with. Believe in the goodness in them, rather than have all these judgments come in. And by the way, those judgments that you use and come out of your mouth, they're about you. You may not want to think that, and you may say, oh, Heidi, you're wrong.
And C?
I wish I was. And C, courage and confidence and compassion. 3 C's. And with that, we're going to do a little quick meditation to help you ground a little bit. Let me turn on the music.
Remember to speak up.
Okay, find yourself. Get yourself in a nice, comfortable place and close your eyes. Sit up straight. Begin to focus on your breath. And take a nice deep breath in and hold it. Hold it in your heart. And feel the breath coming down your spine and down into Mother Earth. Sending your energy down into the earth. Let's take another nice deep breath in. And gently release the breath out and back down your spine. Quieting your body and your thoughts. And now let's focus here in our heart center. And allow yourselves to connect with that love space there. And let yourself see a picture or allow yourself to see a little child in you, a little girl or a little boy. And begin to see them with eyes of love and compassion. This little child sometimes feels lost, confused, worried, scared. And you now get to become that nurturing parent for that little child. So allow yourselves to take them and sit them on your lap if you feel comfortable doing that. Or they could just stand in front of you and maybe they'll let you hold their hand. And just look in their eyes. And begin to tell your little child mentally here, or out loud, because obviously you're not here, so you can speak as loud as you want. Tell your little child that you are now going to take care of them. You are going to protect them. That you will not allow people to belittle or judge or criticize him. That you will stand up for them and set boundaries and tell people, I really don't like when you say that to me, and I really don't deserve that. And just see how your little child begins to feel as you begin to create that foundation of safety for them to open up to you, to share, to love. And let them know that you're going to keep them safe. So take your little child to your safe place out in nature. Let them see the wonder and beauty of Mother Earth as you gaze upon them. You gaze upon their innocence and their beauty. And allow your spiritual connection to be here with you both. Have your spiritual connection bless this sacred space where you can commune with your inner child and begin to practice love and compassion towards your little child. And so knowing that you can come back here whenever you like, we're going to come back as I count from 1 to 5, and you come back into your room there with lots of energy, feeling peaceful and calm, allowing all the words you heard to trickle down and percolate and permeate through you as you integrate all the information. And please go back and listen to it again. 1, feel the energy coming back. 2, feeling relaxed, refreshed. 3, with lots and lots of energy. 4, feeling peace and calm. And 5, wide awake, open your eyes, relaxed and refreshed. Good. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We went a little later today, but I believe that the information was necessary to share. Please share this on your pages for people that you believe can benefit from this. Talk about do's and don'ts in relationships, what's healthy and what's not. And we will see you Sunday at noon for meditation again, and we'll come up with another teaching next week. We also will take suggestions, yes?
Yeah, for sure.
If you want us to discuss something that you guys struggle with, and maybe we can expand on how to give you tools and resources. Okay?
That'd be great. So y'all know the teaching is 42 minutes long.
All right.
Blessed be, my friends.
Take good care and stay safe, please. Good night.
Good night.